in the 06010.
What's good, friends? Welcome on into Fantasy Focus Football alongside the incomparable Stephania Bell and the ageless Field Yates. Because you still look like you're 12 years old.
Oh, thank you. I'll take that. I very much
deal.
appreciate that. It's good to be on with you guys.
It's great to be here today. Pumped to be here for Fantasy Focus Football.
Daniel Dopp.
Week 6 is in the books. Officially.
That's crazy.
After 2 Monday Night Football games. I got to tell you, I love watching 2 football games, but also Monday night gets real late when there's 2 football games on at the same time.
Well, last night wasn't so bad.
Yeah, you thought last night was late? Get ready.
Get ready for next week. Yes, next week's going to be even worse.
Yeah, it is going to be a whole lot worse. We also happen to have one room in our home where the people that previously owned our home, when they were moving, it was a family that was now empty nesting, and they left some things behind, including one TV on a wall that was so perfectly attached to the wall that I convinced my wife to not take it down. But I had a separate TV I really wanted in that room, so I do have a dual TV room in my house.
That's what I did.
Last night was awesome.
Now you're just bragging.
I
only have one TV.
Well, multi-view also works.
I know, but I have the multi-view where it's like
ESPN
6
app.
things, so I'm usually on my app.
Yep.
I am a big supporter of the ESPN app. I'm usually on my app and my TV, but I have a hard time because I want to see all the details, so I'm not a huge fan of the overlap.
Okay, all right. I brought in a second TV as well to be able to watch football, so definitely there's a lot of football going on last night. We're going to dive into it here in a little bit, but first and foremost, today's show is presented by Little Caesars. Hopefully you enjoyed the 15% off that you got yesterday at Little Caesars for that Sam Darnold call.
Pizza.
Also, shout out to our buddies over at Trophy Smack. Get 10% off with the promo code FOCUS10 at TrophySmack.com. Go buy something fun for your league. We got a big show today. Monday Night Football recap. We're doing all the Week 7 waivers. Stephania, we're going to dive into a few more injuries. And at the very end of the show, we're also going to talk about some guys that you can drop. We're far enough into the season that I feel like we've established a few trends, things that are no longer just like, boy, I wonder if this is something. You now can make some decisions to move on from a few players.
We are a third of the way through the regular season of the NFL, which means we're like halfway to the playoffs.
Yeah.
For fantasy football.
Playoffs.
Yeah. So you got some decisions to make if you are struggling in, I don't know, the Fantasy Focus Show League.
Ooh,
yikes.
All right.
Well,
we might talk about that too.
Yeah,
that's coming.
We might. By the way, just a quick apology. We're working through some technical things. Technological things?
Technical, I think
both would apply probably in this sense. But for those that watch us normally live at 10 a.m. Eastern time, we're getting some things straightened out. We'll be back tomorrow. We understand that there were some technical issues yesterday as well. We are working diligently to make sure that by tomorrow's show or sometime soon, we have things back on track. Sort of like the Atlanta Falcons offense last night.
By me working on it, let's be clear, it's not the three of us because that would be no help whatsoever.
That would be people that are actually smart at that side of the business because Stephania is very smart in lots of ways. And Daniel is also very smart. Big dummy.
Smart if you started Bijan Robinson last night. This dude is the closest thing that we have to a modern-day Greek god in the NFL right now.
And more humble than a Greek god.
So just unbelievable.
The personality is the icing on the cake. He's a lovely young man who... I'm just telling you, this was my takeaway. I don't know. For me, this was my takeaway of the game was Bijan Robinson on the ground, through the air, career high total yards last week. Let's see if we can top that.
Do it again.
This week with 238 yards from scrimmage, that beautiful 81-yard touchdown run that I thought really, that was everything about Bijan, right? And it was a scamper at which he still broke a tackle, but it looked effortless.
Oh, yeah.
All the way to the end zone. I just love him. I had the pleasure of sitting down for an interview with him last year when I was looking at the state of running backs. And he was like, I feel like if I just go out there and perform, I'll get what's coming to me. Well, yes, you will, because he has proved how valuable he is to that franchise.
If you decided to use the 1.01 or 1.02 pick on Bijan Robinson rather than Jamar Chase, that has been the pick that has absolutely worked out. You mentioned the 238 yards. It's not just that. He also had 6 catches, unbelievably involved in the passing game. Yeah. He also had a touchdown vultured away from him by Tyler Algier, and he still had 35.8 fantasy points.
I think I'm gonna give that one legitimate credit.
It wasn't actually a vulture.
21-yard
You're right. You're right.
So, credit to Tyler Algier there because it was a long run.
Nice scamper.
Yes, but Bijan, was amazing. I think the story of the night last night was that Bijan and Drake London orchestrated Monday Night Football comebacks, right? You were talking about how you needed Bijan to outscore James Cook by 15 to beat Mike Clay.
Guess what happened?
He outscored him by 28.
Yes, he did.
27. So
nice.
Bijan certainly held up his end of the bargain. Let's not overlook Drake London, his monster night last night, much of which came in the first half. He had 9 catches for 147 yards and a touchdown in the first half. He had just 1 catch for 11 yards in the second half. He goes for 31.8 fantasy.
So good.
He probably helps some Monday Night Miracles, and it could have been even better. At the end of the first half, with 6 seconds to go, the Falcons were trying to run one more play to make it a more manageable field goal attempt for Parker Romo.
Yep.
Drake London receives a pass from Michael Penix Jr., breaks a tackle. He is off to the races. He is, at least on first blush, in the end zone for a touchdown. He ended up being down at the 1-yard line, which stinks for him because that ended up costing an opportunity to kick a field goal.
Time expired.
Right.
Still
'cause he ran
worth
out
the
of time.
attempt by Drake London. Obviously worth that. I thought he did score at first. It very clearly was not a touchdown. I also thought at that moment, I was like totally convinced. I was like, what are the chances the Falcons of all teams potentially blow a lead because they miss out on an opportunity to go up 21 versus the Buffalo Bills as opposed to only being up 14. But yes, Drake London was amazing last night. If you had those two guys, you certainly feel good about it. Josh Allen was ho-hum last night. I think the most interesting thing from the Bills standpoint, because we can stop talking about the pass catchers with great depth at this point. They are what they are, right? Like you might get lucky with a Khalil Shakir every once in a while. Maybe Dalton Kincaid was out, but maybe Dalton Kincaid, when he's healthy, has a decent night. At a
Dawson
very
Knox
thin
caught a
Dawson Knox,
touchdown,
good
right?
replacement.
Yep, he had a 19-yard touchdown, did Dawson Knox. The part that I think is interesting is we've seen this on a couple of occasions, and I believe back-to-back bad games now for James Cook is 0 involvement in the pass. I'm just going to pull this up specifically right now.
Yeah.
James Cook had 0 involvement in the passing game last night. 0
was
targets for
weird.
James Cook, which now means over the past 2 weeks, he has 0 receiving yards. 0 catches for 0 receiving yards. Through 6 games, James Cook is averaging 2 receptions and less than 15 yards per game. Coming into the NFL, James Cook was billed correctly as the standout receiving back. We have seen that role change over the past couple of seasons. 44 catches back in 2023. He's now on pace for 36 in 2025, which isn't dramatically different, but he was also averaging 10.1 yards per reception that year. He had 4 receiving touchdowns. He's down to 7.4 receiving yards yards per reception, and he has 0 receiving touchdowns through 6 games. Mike will tell you that predicting receiving touchdowns for running backs is very difficult to do. I only make this point to say that James Cook was red hot to begin the year with insane rushing production. He's cooled off a little bit. That was one of the reasons why coming into this season, we weren't talking about Cook as quite as likely to be a top 5 running back. It was a guy who, he's only playing, 28 snaps last night, did James Cook. There was a little bit more of a peak in a pit for James Cook versus guys like Bijan, Jonathan Taylor that have emerged to the very top of the running back food chain. So still very much a top 15, top 10 running back going forward, but a couple of down nights for James Cook when he doesn't find the end zone because of the lack of consistent pass game involvement.
Which is crazy because Ray Davis found the end zone, by the way, through the air in the passing game. James Cook, and I mentioned, this was one of my takeaways coming into the week, Field, was you may be asking yourself, why do you have the guy that's ranked RB4? If you remember, he's had at least 20 fantasy points in each of his first 4 games, had 100 yards in each of his first 4 games. And then he played the Atlanta Falcons, who had been really, really good against running backs. And
literally the best.
8.7 fantasy points again tonight, or last night, unfortunately, for James Cook. So now they go into a bye week. Now they got a week to be able to stew. James Cook has a week, the Bills do, to be able to stew and sit and be like, I can't believe I had those 2 back-to-back games. And they come out and they're going to play the Carolina Panthers when they get back. And I'm going to hope that James Cook can get back on track in week 8 when that happens.
The Falcons, they travel to San Francisco next week for Sunday Night Football. So primetime game, everybody get prepared to watch the Falcons run all over San Francisco. I was coming into this game looking for Drake London to, have another emerging performance. And obviously last night, I think he was the only receiver to actually catch a ball. Drake London is going to be solid as long as Mooney is out. I'm just curious when Mooney comes back if there's any of that volume.
I think you're
literally the only Falcons wide receiver to catch a pass last night.
Stephania, the stat person on the show, obviously.
That's right.
So
that's right.
Penix completed 20 passes.
It was weird
Michael
because
Penix
I noticed
Jr.
they weren't going to the receivers. Right?
Yeah.
10 to Drake London, 6 to Bijan Robinson and the rest to other running backs / tight ends. So Kyle Pitts got minimally involved, but more involved than any other wide receiver. That much is for sure. But a big, big game. Shout out to the Falcons. That's a huge win.
Yep.
And this team made a big bet this offseason on revamping its pass rush. It has paid off so far. They were excellent
They
on
really
Monday
were.
Night Football.
And we love this football team because from a fantasy perspective, it's just like we know that we can count on Bijan and Drake London. It was very chalky for the Falcons. Was hoping that with no Darnell Mooney, maybe we'd see a little bit more Kyle Pitts. Didn't come to fruition, unfortunately. And you already mentioned on the other side field, the Bills, again, very chalky from that perspective. James Cook still had a lot of volume. Josh Allen, we're going to start every week. And then the pass catchers, I am good to be without, to be honest. Let's talk about the Bears and Commanders.
Yeah.
This was a wet, sloppy, messy, had a couple of turnovers.
Sloppy.
Wasn't as fun as I wanted it to be because of the rain,
Kinda
a little
fun,
bit of the
though.
wet. It was fun. It was
Back in the fourth, little excitement
It
down
did-
at the end.
Dude, down at the end, it got really intense for sure. I was just hoping for more fantasy points. Like, I wanted to see more explosive plays.
Well, if you had DeAndre Swift, you got those. A season
Yes.
best game for DeAndre Swift. It was
great.
the best that he's looked, by the way, as well. He continues to lead the way in that Bears backfield. He's got even if largely unsexy output, he's just got a really solid role for Chicago. He had 14 rushes last night. He also had 2 catches, one of which went for 55 yards and a touchdown. The offensive design, once again, under Ben Johnson, no surprise, was really good. The numbers across the board for the Bears beyond DeAndre Swift, not anything to really write home about.
Nope.
I will note one thing, and I'm not going to go on this like angry rant, but I did want to bring this up. So Roma Dunze catches an 11 or 12-yard touchdown last night. An amazing catch by Roma.
Yeah.
yes.
Beautiful throw.
Clearly-
Unbelievable catch.
Clearly the number one.
He has just 2 catches last night, and that touchdown's taken off the board is Rome's. And the call was that the Bears left tackle, Theo Benedict, this call that we've seen a lot from the NFL, was not close enough to the line of scrimmage. They went back and they looked at it, and even Troy Aikman is like, I don't know what's going on here, right? The NFL, so just give me maybe a minute here. So the NFL has been cracking down on these penalties where offensive linemen are not close enough to the line of scrimmage. Chiefs fans know that Jawan Taylor, their right tackle, has been a frequent violator of said rule. But the NFL, in cracking down on that, they used to sort of work in concert with the players. If a player was too far off, the ref
Kind of
would
give them the
would
signal,
say,
right?
take
Move
a
up
step
a little bit.
or shoo it back a little bit if you're a wide receiver.
That was the origin of the big. Remember when I forget who it was, but there was a player who was like, "Well, they didn't warn me."
Right.
Remember that
Right.
with the
Yes.
penalty, and
Yep.
so it became like, but they were counting on the refs because they knew they would give them the signals.
So
to get in line.
we saw Travis Hunter, who was called offsides on a Brian Thomas Jr. touchdown. This
yeah.
Roma Dunze thing, which I'll be honest with you, I didn't think that Theo Benedict was too far back. He looked totally fine to my eye, and I think most people who was watching their eye as well. The problem I have with this, if I'm the NFL or for NFL fans, is that like if you're going to crack down on this, I want you to also give the players a little bit of a nudge and a heads up, because the truth is that these alignments are so often inconsequential. It so rarely actually impacts the play. The difference between Caleb Williams and Roma Dunze hooking up for this beautiful touchdown was not Theo Benedict maybe being an inch and a half further back than he needed to be. Just tell the player, if you give him a warning and he does not adhere to the warning, then
Totally.
by all means, throw the flag. There was another play. DJ Moore was called offensive offsides last night. We're like, guys, like it has nothing to do with the play. Too many plays are being called back because of these dumb ticky-tack fouls. Like nobody really wants to see the ref show. And I'm not blaming the refs, by the way. They're doing their job. This is how they are supposed to do it. I just think the NFL will be a better product if they advise the refs, you give the players a heads up, you give them just one, and if they don't take it, then we move on and you flag them. It just feels like too many plays are being thrown by the wayside. And if you have Roma Dunze, that was 11 fantasy points taken off the board. Or whatever, 8.5.
8.5, yeah. It was, unfortunately, there have been a handful of situations like that. And it's sometimes you watch the game. This has nothing to do with fantasy, but like you just watch the game and you're like, this just like impacts the game in such a negative way that we don't need. You don't need to like interrupt the game like this. It's not like, and I'm taking a shot, but like, it's not like he was Jawan Taylor, like clearly like a yard and a half back at the right tackle
And he's doing
spot,
it every
right?
single snap.
Exactly.
Right.
Like it's
like
different.
He's every snap. He's looking to game the system a little bit. And by the way, if they don't call it, you should keep doing that. But I just felt like, it's DJ Moore's called for an offensive offsides on the left side of the formation. The pass, it's like Caleb gets the snap, throws the ball to the right side for like a 10-yard gain. Bring it back because some guy on the left side was an inch further than he should have been.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of delays in play that as a fan, I find a little bit cumbersome and kind of unsavory. So anyways, end rant.
How about Luther Burden leading this wide receiving core in receptions, huh?
Did he have the most?
He did. He had 4 of them. Yeah. Honestly, like we saw a little bit of him come on, and like Roma Dunze. Again, it was a wet game. It was a sloppy game. You saw some fumbles. You saw some mishandling of the football, and so it was just honestly when I looked at the Bears, it was DeAndre Swift, and that was my takeaway. When I look at the Commanders, it was Zach Ertz not on a bye. Yeah. Very grateful for that this week.
Yeah, back. He's back.
He's back this week. And Jaden Daniels. And that was honestly it. I didn't have any major takeaways other than that.
DJ Moore did stay in a local hospital overnight last night. Did you see that?
I did not.
So he was, for precautionary reasons, I saw that. So we'll obviously with that, we'll monitor.
Okay.
And if anything, he was banged up early in the game and he was playing through it for much of the game. So we'll see whether that impacts his availability. And we can talk more about Luther Burden and waivers a little bit later on. Last thing that I'll say, and I actually am curious what Stephania thinks about this. I'm guessing she thinks she's very happy for the player. Great moment for Jake Moody. Great moment.
So my takeaway from last night from this game was the DeAndre Swift, and sort of like in 2 games we saw the running backs do it through the ground, through the air. But DeAndre Swift's last play set up Jake Moody for that kick. That play needed to happen from DeAndre Swift to get him into a range, but then the elements of the rain and the wind, that was no easy kick for him. And he had the blocked kick earlier. So if you can imagine what might have been going through his mind after that was such a big deal when he was released from the 49ers, because obviously 3rd round pick, which Shanahan took a lot of heat for and probably stuck with Moody for longer than he otherwise would have, given that. And there was even rumblings of him potentially retiring from football because he was saying it was too stressful. And I was surprised that he ended up on the practice squad with Chicago. And then all of a sudden, boom, he's elevated and now he has to kick. So I thought what Caleb Williams said in the postgame interview too was super classy on that front.
I agree.
Because he really highlighted, Moody just got here, then being put in that position, then the elements. I mean, he went on and said, I'm really happy for him that he was able to do that. And I thought that was just a nice bow on the package for them, for the Bears. And I thought, what a great closing out of the game.
Yeah. So if you did for some reason start Jake Moody in fantasy, which it's probably pretty unlikely you did because we didn't even know he was going to kick until
he was a Monday Night Football option.
Yeah. And by the way, they're playing in the elements. You're like, do I really want to go back? But just as I think about what I love about sports, it's moments like that where players can, come back from personal adversity and help meaningfully. And if not for Jake Moody last night, the Bears don't win that game.
100%.
So, nothing else for me on Monday Night Football other than Bill Krosky-Merritt has remained the lead back for the Commanders. He had just 5.8 fantasy points last night. Not super involved in the passing game, and he fumbled for the 2nd straight game. They're so thin there, I don't know whether it's going to matter, those fumbles, but we know coaches hate their fumbles.
And that fumble was an actual fumble, not the exchange fumble that him
and later one where
yeah.
Jaden was trying. Yes, and late in the game, Jaden Daniels did fumble.
That was tough.
Which
my only other takeaway, and this was from both games, was just for fantasy purposes. You know, we often we were talking about who did you draft first overall and where were you looking at the value of running backs coming into the season. And I think what both games showed us last night is that a high volume pass catching running back is the position of most scarcity. Right? You have elite wide receivers like a Jamar Chase or a Justin Jefferson. Now they've had circumstances around them, but the most valuable player on your team right now is a Bijan Robinson, is
a Christian McCaffrey, Jahmyr Gibbs.
And I think that there's so few of them who do both so well that it makes me think maybe that's really what I'm angling for as my top draft pick when I come into next year.
All right. I love it. Let's dive into the Fantasy Focus Show League coming out of Monday Night Football as we had a close game. We have to really quickly, Stephania. I'm so sorry. I don't want to do this either. But Miller Like Mike ended up beating Stephania Bell because he had both Caleb Williams and Bijan Robinson, as if he needed both of them last night.
Seriously.
I scored 133 points. My team is trying so hard. This is a try-hard team. My team's in the bottom of the barrel, right? Terrible. But we're trying to hang in there despite some injuries, made some roster moves, put my squad together. 133.5
That's not bad,
points.
Stephania.
I really did
And
try.
two of your receivers left the game early because of injury. Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka.
I
As far as I'm
spotted
concerned,
Mike
you actually
Clay
beat.
point.
Yeah, you won that
You
game.
actually beat Mike, as
I
far as
know.
I'm concerned.
You
So
certainly
Mike,
covered the spread at least.
Yeah, I mean,
in that
Mike-
match.
There are moral victories in this game.
Absolutely, yes. And by the way, I think you're only.
Am I going to make the victory points? That is a big question.
Yes, you did. You won victory.
I
Yes.
did.
Yes.
So you were 5 and 7
nice
in
of me.
ninth. Mike is 7 and 5 in fourth. So there's not. I mean, we're right in the
So
middle. There's a lot
there-
going on.
you're
Let's take a
saying
look at the
there's a
scoreboard.
chance.
Sam, pull this up right
Let's
now.
take a look
You
at the
just do it right
scoreboard
there.
and the
Yeah.
standings from this last week to be able to dive into what the league looks like. So this is
See.
scoreboard from last week. I got crushed. I scored 69 points this week,
Nice,
guys.
but not nice.
Not great.
That hurts.
No, Eric Moody dominated Team Lowe's. Fields, you crushed the producer who
The
was
producer?
Yeah, the
Ooh,
producer
that
was in
his
first place.
Was that his first loss?
No,
Second
he's
loss?
he's had a tough couple weeks. Has our producer Dave? He's got a great team though.
Yep.
He's
I
still
know
he's now in
buried
second
me
place.
the first week.
Our producer Tyler, Kiss the Baby, ended up beating Micah is a Packer because DeAndre Swift went off in that game. If it was not for DeAndre Swift, Tyler would not have won that. And then Christina, the bus, ended up taking down Trophy
her
Smack. We love anytime anyone
Yeah.
beats Trophy Smack.
I know.
They've been good for too long. They're like the Chiefs right now. So let's dive into the standings and look at that really quickly before we move on. Jamar Mageddon. Wow, Jamar Mageddon, 9 and 3. Our buddy Zach, our producer Zach, up at the top.
Yeah. Well
The
done, Zach.
producer
You had
and
the
Trophy
first pick
Smack
and you
up
took
there as
Jamar
well as
Chase.
Miller Lite Mike, a bunch of guys right in the
Trophy
middle.
Smack down in third. Ha.
Yeah. A lot of 5. I mean, we're 5 and 7, 6 and 6, 7 and 5. Honestly, there's only 2 teams that are really
There's a
just.
lot of parity. We're pretty much
No,
NFL is what
yeah.
we are.
Yeah, we
This
look like the
league- This
NFL.
league is starting to come together a little bit, so I would say nobody is fully out of it yet, and I still think there's a possibility. This is just one person's opinion, and I understand it would take at least a majority vote to confirm this, but I still think that we should consider the loser of this league, DFL, having to do the Waffle House punishment. We do a video
Oh.
and we run it during week 18.
I'm too afraid.
I love that idea.
I still think we should do it.
I'm not. Listen,
There has to be a punishment for the loser.
there's got to be something
Like,
here.
I'm in 8th place. I could very easily lose this league. Like,
Correct.
I'm willing to play with fire a little bit here.
All right. All
I'm a
right.
little nervous about standing in Waffle House overnight by myself.
No, we'd come with you.
No,
Yeah,
you would,
yeah,
not. You would
yeah, I
come
would
visit.
fa-
Be like,
I would
be like,
FaceTime
it's
you.
10:30. Time
Yeah,
for me to go to bed.
exactly.
I went to bed at midnight last night.
You staying up late. Look at you staying up all late.
That was big for me.
Big kid. I bet your
Crazy.
parents didn't even know. All right, let's dive into the week 7 waivers here. We got a handful of teams on by Baltimore Ravens and Buffalo
Two, yeah.
Bills. 2 best quarterbacks potentially in the NFL. Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. They're unbelievable. Running backs, Derrick Henry and James Cook. They're both really good. Wide receivers, Zay Flowers.
Yep. Good call.
And then tight end is Mark Andrews and Dalton Kincaid. Yeah, not really anyone else there. Yeah.
And Lamar Jackson hopefully returning in week
Yep.
8 when they come off the bye week. So get lots of rest, Lamar. Rehab well.
All right, as we go through this, I'm going to bring up a few injuries, Stephania. You can jump in and let me know what we need to do to pivot.
Alrighty.
I'm going to start with my priority pickups. Guys that you must add, I believe, regardless of what level or style or depth of league that you're in. Guys that I think are just priority pickups here heading into
What do you
week
got?
7. Running back is Kimani Vidal. That's where it starts. It's
Totally.
the number 1 guy. Rostered in 27.2% of leagues. He had a monster game for those of you that did not watch the Chargers game. 21 touches, which included 3 receptions, 138 total yards, and a touchdown for 21.3 fantasy points. And when you look at the way that this backfield worked out, there's a reason why we are now more on Kimani Vidal than we were on Hassan Haskins. It's the time on the field.
Totally.
Kimani Vidal had 67% of the snaps, Haskins only 31%. The workload, Kimani Vidal had 21 touches, Hassan Haskins only had 7. And then the eye test. The dude was explosive. Had carries of 13, 19, 27, and 38 yards, ripping off big runs, had a ton of juice. They play the Chargers Chargers play the Colts in week 7. So I think he's going to be a low-end RB2 for me. If you grab him on waivers and you need a running back because you've got a James Cook or a Derrick Henry or any one of the injured running backs that you have, you can put him right into your starting
I
lineup.
would just be grabbing him in general.
Yes, of course.
Whether you need one or not, if you've got a high priority, I would at least
Block
throw a
somebody
claim
else.
in there.
Keep someone else from getting him. Do what you can to be able to get that. So I like him there.
Good call.
At the wide receiver spot, this one's a little bit scarier, however I'm going to say this. It's Kendrick Bourne, rostered in 37.7% of leagues. Not every priority ad needs to be a 14-week league winner. I just want to say that, right?
agree. Yeah.
This is one of
Pocket
those
player.
priority ads where he may only have a few weeks of really good production and fantasy relevance, but fantasy football is a weekly game. Those weeks are going to matter when we're trying to make the playoffs. Second week in a row as a fill-in wide receiver, Stephania, because this team has just been devoid, unfortunately, of talent because of the wide receiver issues that we have at injuries.
Yeah, wide receiver and quarterback. But starting with the wide receivers, you have Brandon Ayuk, who started the season on the PUP list. Still no timeline for him to return. You've got George Kittle as a pass catcher, tight end, obviously, injured in week 1. They're hoping to get him back in practice. May be available Sunday night against Atlanta. We don't know yet. And Ricky Pearsall with the knee. Also, Kyle Shanahan hoping to get him back in practice. Ricky Pearsall obviously a stud when he's been out there, but the knee issue is limiting him. As far as who's going to be throwing to those wide receivers, sounds like they're going to evaluate Brock Purdy on Wednesday and make a decision about when he can return to practice. You saw that Mac Jones was very banged up with the oblique and the knee injury. Mac Jones and Kendrick Bourne obviously have a history together, great chemistry. Mac Jones instrumental and part of the reason why Kendrick Bourne wanted to sign with the 49ers. So if Mac Jones is again under center, you love that potential with them, at least for the coming week. They're probably going to have to throw the ball because they're going to be down a lot because 49ers, of course, lost Fred Warner this week. They lost Nick Bosa earlier in the season. So defensively, I think Atlanta has a good chance to have their way with the team.
Did Kyle say anything about Juwan Jennings at all yesterday?
If he did,
played. Nothing notable.
So Juwan Jennings talked about him. We're talking about who to drop later, so I'll say a little more about him then. But Juwan Jennings made it known that he was playing through 5 broken ribs and obviously had the ankle injuries from before, had the shoulder injury before that. So clearly not at his best.
So when I look at this, for me, like Kendrick Bourne, last week, 9 targets, 5 catches for 142, 19.2 fantasy points. This week, 11 targets, 10 catches for 142, 24.2 fantasy points. I know a lot has been made about that Mac Jones connection. That's a thing that we have talked about.
Yeah.
Even if Brock Purdy is the starting quarterback, right now the 49ers just need healthy, dependent, consistent bodies in their wide receiving core.
If Ricky Pearsall's out again this week, which Stephania said there's a chance he could be in, but he's not a guarantee, then I think Kendrick Bourne will be a top 30-ish wide receiver for me. If Ricky Pearsall is back, then it'll be a little bit less optimistic, but I agree with the take again.
All right, let's talk about the tight end position because unfortunately, David Njoku got banged up. We've been dealing with more tight end injuries. Brock Bowers didn't play this last week. How about Harold Fannin?
Hey.
I feel like we're at a point where we got to actually really legitimately start paying attention. Rostered in 29% of leagues, took over as the main tight end, pass-catching tight end, once Njoku got banged up, eventually left the game, had 10 targets for 7 catches and 81 yards, good enough for 15.1 fantasy points. Did you know Harold Fannin Jr. actually leads all Browns wide receivers and tight ends in receptions, receiving yards, and fantasy points? He is the pass catcher that is leading this squad right now as a rookie tight end. He's second on the team in targets. He plays Miami in week 7. He's going to be a top 12 fantasy option for me. I do want to know and continue to monitor the David Njoku situation as
Anything there is, I'm assuming we'll get more information tomorrow,
Tuesday.
Wednesday.
Tuesday's a big day when a lot of the details come out.
So we'll monitor that more on David Njoku. Agree on Fannin. It's such a hard position to find players in general. The only note that I would add to this past week's performance, some context, Dylan Gabriel threw the football 52 times in that game. On top of that, a lot of Fannin's production came super late in that game. Junk time, which you can say that we'll probably count on junk time from the Browns week in and week out. But because of how good their defense is, it may not be a guarantee like it is for a team like until last week, the Jets defense.
Since Dylan Gabriel took over as the starting quarterback of the Cleveland Browns, he's second in the NFL in pass attempts. And dead last in completion percentage. 2 games, correct.
52 attempts will definitely put you near the top of the leaderboard there.
And they are not, it's just, it doesn't look good. The completion percentage thing it's not great. So we're trying to figure that thing out. Speaking of quarterbacks, if you need a streaming quarterback, boy, I feel uncomfortable with this, but I'm going to put it out there. If you need a streaming quarterback, I think Jaxson Dart versus Denver is where I would throw a dart. I don't want to play quarterbacks against Denver, though. To me, it was either Jaxson Dart. I'd love to ask you guys, would you rather have Jaxson Dart against Denver with everything he's done with his legs the last couple of weeks? Or would you rather have Sam Darnold against the Houston Texans, who have allowed 47 fantasy points to fantasy quarterbacks?
Probably neither.
I know, that's the hard part. If you've got Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, you've got to make a decision probably on, if you didn't grab someone earlier, you're going to have to grab somebody.
Okay, so good call there.
Is there someone else that you would rather have at streaming as a streaming quarterback in Week 7?
Yes, I'll have to look at some of the names that would qualify in that regard. But I want to pass something along from Jared Smola over at Draft Sharks, who I think is just an exceptional fantasy brain, who notes the following: that against the Broncos this season, here are the quarterback rushing lines. You guys tell me whether you think Cam Ward's athletic or not.
Yes.
Okay, 0 rushes for 0 attempts, for 0 yards.
Yep.
Daniel Jones, athletic or no?
Yes.
2 rushing yards.
Yep.
He found the end zone, but he had 2 rushing yards on 6 attempts. Justin Herbert, good athlete, yes or no?
Yep.
2 rushes for 6 yards.
Yep.
Jake Browning, meh athlete, 3 rushes for 4 yards.
Yep.
Jalen Hurts, we agree on him, right?
Yep.
2 rushes for 3 yards.
Yep.
Justin Fields, who, as we know, outstanding athlete, 7 rushes, 31 yards. So Justin did the best out of those guys.
Line was at 35.5. I talked about that leading into the week, how good they have been against rushing quarterbacks. Only up until Justin Fields, they had only allowed 15 rushing yards to quarterbacks. Now they've allowed still under 50.
So I'm a little cautious on Jaxson Dart, even though I think that Jackson could easily have the most designed rushing attempts against the Broncos so far this season. So I probably would lean there over Sam, but I think there might be an even better option. I have to just look closely at the.
I would love for you to give me a better option because I looked at all the quarterbacks. I didn't feel good about anybody.
And I could be talked into that one against that Seahawks defense, missing a couple of key secondary players this past week. Seattle.
The thing I love about Jaxson Dart, and you're right about all the rushing stuff, and by you're right, I mean Jared Small is right, who took that from me from the previous week, so I was right.
I forget you're recalling it. So
that's all right.
You guys are both awesome.
But this is one of those things where Jaxson Dart has 30 rush attempts over the last 3 weeks. Now, mind you, over that time, Field. It's
okay.
Over that time, we had Lamar Jackson and Jaden Daniels both missing time. Like, we had a bunch of rushing quarterbacks. But, like, if I'm looking, more often than not, if I'm looking for a streaming quarterback, I love the idea of rushing upside.
Totally,
Because it's just, the passing game is so volatile and it's a tough one. So, don't love it. Not a great streaming quarterback this week, as evidenced by this back and forth with us talking about it.
Jared Goff, is he available in enough leagues to be a streamer?
I think he's rostered in over 50%
what's
of leagues.
interesting is I've noticed this in a lot of the leagues that I play in. So many people just double up at quarterback now. The idea of streaming quarterbacks becomes
harder,
much rarer in leagues that I play in. Almost everybody has insulated their quarterback room.
Didn't used to be like that.
No, I feel like back in the day, if you drafted Josh Allen, it's like, fine, I'll just ride Josh for 17 out of 18 weeks.
Yep.
And now it's like, I have Josh, but I also am just stashing Caleb Williams on the bench.
Yeah.
You might not love it, but Michael Penix Jr., 49ers defense is
that's a good one. Yeah.
Non-existent
You're right.
now.
I don't love it.
Atlanta's coming in hot. So
that's an interesting
one.
I
feel like didn't I just trust Michael Penix Jr. against the Carolina Panthers? And then
you did, yes. And that one spectacularly failed. Yes.
That was okay.
You are gambling. I didn't say you were, but you're desperate, right?
Okay.
You're streaming because you can't find a lot of available quarterbacks.
Tough week. Jeez.
Speaking of streaming, let's talk about some deeper leagues or some streaming targets specifically at the pass catcher position. Alec Ironmanner rostered in 27% of leagues right now. Calvin Ridley dealing with a hamstring injury. He would be the wide receiver 1 if Ridley misses any time. Stephania, any updates, or are we going to watch that as the week progresses?
Yeah, that's another one where they're not saying much, but he exited the game.
Okay.
And
the Titans have been busy for the past 24 hours for other things.
Yes.
They have.
They have.
They haven't been. There's
fired their head coach for those that are not paying attention.
Exactly.
Yes.
So
Brian Callahan no longer has a job.
Not focused on the other reports just yet.
But Alec Ironmanner, if there is no Calvin Ridley, but would be the wide receiver 1 of that squad, I still think he's worth being on the end of benches. Jordan Whittington, rostered in 0.2% of leagues, unfortunately, with Puka Nacua. Did I say it wrong?
No.
Okay, good. I want to make sure. Rostered in 2.2% of leagues with Puka Nacua getting banged up. Stephania, do we need to be worried about Puka missing time?
Yes. I mean, in the immediate sense, you need to be worried about this week. So Puka, for just refresher, left the game with an apparent ankle injury, did come back in, wasn't targeted again, didn't do much else in that game. Ended up going for some imaging, and Sean McVay said they were really pleased to see that there was nothing that suggested a long-term injury with him, which sounds to me like they didn't see anything significant structurally wrong. Doesn't mean there wasn't an injury there, just nothing that they're saying, okay, we got to put him on IR. They are in doubt about his status for this week. The Rams are staying on the East Coast in Baltimore because they travel to London for a game. So they're going to monitor him. But this is my favorite Sean McVay quote. I love Sean McVay because he gives us what we need when you're paying attention like me for injury stuff. He said, the Rams will take into account Nacua's, quote, style of play, the way and the nature in which he plays to determine his readiness to play. Now, just watching Puka Nacua, what does that tell you about the things that they're going to factor in before they decide if he's ready to
When
go?
he gets
aggressive cut,
exactly,
he's a run after catch power player, runs through guys, blocks aggressively.
He's not going to change the way he plays,
He's
so
not
he needs
going
to
be delicate.
Yeah.
He's not going to step out about. He's not going to do those things.
Yeah.
And guess what? The Rams have a bye the following week, so don't be surprised. Even if they allow him to work with the potential to play, if they end up holding him out, which again would make Jordan Whittington.
Last year,
valuable.
when there was no Puka Nacua, Jordan Whittington had his 3 best games, and I realize it's not a lot, but 12.2 fantasy points, 6 for 62 in week 4, 7 for 89 in week 5, 15.9 fantasy points, and in week 18, 3 for 86, plus 2 carries for 12 yards for 12.8 fantasy points. All 3 of those games, there was no Puka Nacua. So he was playing that wide receiver 2 role. I would assume that he would play that role with Devontae Adams stepping in the wide receiver 1. You probably don't need a wide receiver because we don't have a lot of them on bye, but if you are banged up or just dealing with the injury bug, a guy that if you know Puka is going to miss time here in week 7 could be an option for you. A couple other guys here really quickly to bang through. Tajay Spears, rostered in 23% of leagues. Outtouched Tony Pollard this last week. I don't know if you guys noticed that, but if you may remember, I said that you needed to add him last week. Again, when you look at all of the backup running backs, I think he just needs to be on rosters and to benches. Tyler Algier, rostered in 32% of leagues. I said it last week. I'm going to keep saying it until he eventually gets rostered over 50% of leagues. Insurance running backs that have an unbelievably clear path to touches, if the guy in front of them go down, need to be in one of those final bench spots on your roster.
Agreed. Yep.
Drop a wide receiver that you're never going to play and add one of those running backs because they are more valuable.
Maybe in a minute we can give you guys some names to drop.
Oh, hey, that's not a bad idea. Field, good tease. All right, I got a couple more really quickly. Keyshawn Boutte, rostered in 7% of leagues. We've seen this before, where he had the big game, right? Week 1, 9 targets, 6 catches, 103 yards, 16.3 fantasy points. And then weeks 2 to 5, he didn't top 3 targets in any of those games. Yeah. And then now in week 6, 5 for 93 and 2 touchdowns, 26.3 fantasy points. He's a dart throw. If you need a chance at a big game, you can throw a dart at Keyshawn Boutte, not someone that needs to be rostered though. That is why he's
But it is fun to have
Boutte.
him on your team. Yeah,
yes, exactly.
Because you get puns like that. That's why you want Boutte on your roster.
You can never get enough Boutte. All right, and then the last one here, Cade Otton, rostered in 8.9% of leagues. Everyone is hurt. Mike Evans is dealing with a hamstring. Chris Godwin returning from that serious ankle injury. Stephania Emeka, Egbuka, we talked about yesterday. Joey Galloway is old. There's literally no one else.
Wow,
to be
Joey
able.
Galloway catching strays.
Who else is going to catch passes in this squad? Cade Otton might be a guy that if you need someone at the tight end spot, maybe could get some looks this week.
Let's talk a little bit about those guys. Mike Evans injured in week 3. They're hoping, Todd Bowles said they're hoping that he'll return to practice this week in, quote, some capacity. Doesn't sound like they're totally convinced that he's going to go yet. Chris Godwin considered week to week with a fibula injury. I've said my piece about that. I'd be very concerned. They're insisting it's not an IR situation. It is week to week. I would make sure you had insurance. Emeka Egbuka expected to miss time, undergoing an MRI today, reportedly, to check on the severity of that hamstring injury. So, yeah. And then don't forget, we're talking wide receivers, but don't forget Bucky Irving
yeah.
with the foot and the shoulder issue. So they're banged up. Yep.
Right now, top wide receivers for that squad is going to be Sterling Shepard, Tez Johnson, Raheem Jarrett. That's why Cade Otton, I don't love the idea.
Backflips in the end zone. I say,
He's so fun.
Give him, that's fun for me.
I played him in DFS this week. He found his way in the end zone. You got to love that.
You know who they play next week?
Daniels Lions.
That's right.
Monday Night
Football. That's right. That's going to be a good one.
Also a depleted Lions safety room.
Yeah, that was my joke when I came in. Is at least we're playing the Bucs. We don't have a secondary. They don't have any wide receivers. So we're just going to run the ball 80 times for both squads.
Exactly right.
Last 2 things here. Bam Knight and Kareem Hunt. I think both could be end of bench guys.
Bam. Bam.
Bam Bam.
Did
Bam,
you ever
Bam.
get to see that cartoon?
Of course I did.
Yeah,
that one was in my...
Bam.
Yeah, I was in that demographic.
Okay, so it's not Keystone Cops.
No, it's not Keystone Cops. Yeah. Not quite. All right, let's dive into Drop It Like It's Hot. This is the opposite of all the fun stuff that we've talked about so far. Let's going to pretend that there's a player on your squad that's so bad that he's burning your hands and you're like, I don't want him on my squad anymore. Actually, he's just so cold you don't want him. So we're each going to bring a couple players to the table that here heading into week 7, we believe you can drop off your fantasy roster.
I would look at it this way, is that I just don't principally believe, none of the players that I picked are bad enough where I'm telling you need to
just drop them to drop them. Correct.
DeAndre Hopkins would be one that he's probably rostered in way more leagues than he should be because of his name, but there's no reason to be rostering DeAndre Hopkins right now.
Fair.
Guys for me are 55% or higher. So
We're each going to give our first one.
Okay.
And then we'll talk about it. So
okay,
let's go.
Who wants to lead the way? Stephania?
Yeah, sure. I'll start because I kind of teased it already, which is Juwan Jennings. I think you drop him. Listen, he got 31.6 fantasy points on the season. You might say, oh, hey, that sounds pretty good for the amount. But let me tell you about his scoring. 3.6 points the first week when he was coming off of being injured in camp and not practicing a whole lot. Next week, 19.9. And you're like, oh, hey, Juwan Jennings is back. Nope. Then he's out with another injury the following week, but he comes back. 6.4 fantasy points. Oh, then he's out again with another injury, but then he comes back. 1.7 fantasy points. And now he's telling you broken ribs, 2 bad ankles. It's not good. And Ricky Pearsall getting closer and Kendrick Bourne lighting it up. I think it's time to move on from Juwan Jennings.
Yikes. That doesn't feel good. Don't love that, but I appreciate the update, Stephania. For me, I got Keon Coleman. Not developing in the wide receiver one that we had hoped for. I was watching last night to see, did we see him kind of become an alpha? Yep. This isn't a Buffalo Bills receiving core that has an alpha pass catcher. It just hasn't materialized. You're throwing a dart at a boom game if you're playing him, and then even more often than not, you're honestly missing on those boom games. So Keon Coleman is my first drop.
Okay, good answers all the way around here. I'll continue it with the wide receiver theme. Jerry Jeudy.
Hey.
He now has 9.3 or fewer PPR points in 5 straight games.
Yep.
His best finish this season is wide receiver 32. The Browns are totally stuck in the mud offensively, as Daniel referenced just a few moments ago. He has 0 touchdowns this year, just Jerry Jeudy. He has 1 end zone target. He has been duty, some would say. And he now has a target share under 20%. So one of the thought processes for Jerry Jeudy coming into the season was, hey, even if the Browns stink, if you're seeing a 30% target share, that has real value. It's now at 19.7. So Jerry Jeudy makes the drop list for me.
Jerry Jeudy with Dylan Gabriel. Mind you, it's only been 2 games.
Yeah.
But he's 10th in the NFL in targets, 61st in fantasy points. And with the way that offense is running, they just look so out of sync. Even with that kind of volume of targets, Jerry Jeudy is actually my number 2 on this list, Field Yates. So I wanted to piggyback off of that. So I had Jerry Jeudy as well. Stephania, who was your other player? Who's your second player?
Just to comment on the way we're doing this, I too was looking at it as this is just a guy. If you need to make room for something else, you can't be waiting around anymore. Calvin Ridley, who I touted in the preseason, is hey, he's going to be the number 1 there for Cam Ward. And boy, that Tennessee offense has led to nothing. His fantasy points every week, 6.7, 8.7, 3.7, 5.0, 18.1 when you saw a spark of hope. Yeah. And then last week down to 2.8. They've got the coach has been fired. You don't know what exactly is going on there. I can't have this in my roster.
Do you think that that roster's going nowhere? That team's going nowhere right now, right? They're looking already to next year. He's a 30-year-old wide receiver. Do you think there's, potentially trade scenario here?
I think teams will call.
Okay.
I do. Yeah. I just think it's too logical for a team. And he's not this game-changing player like he was paid to be when the Titans signed him. That was a couple of regimes ago.
Yep.
That being said, he's good enough that if the Tennessee Titans were willing to eat a big chunk of his salary and a team was willing to give Tennessee a draft pick in return, I think they would be open to that.
Yeah.
I'm just, the surprising part for me with Tennessee is that there's not more garbage time production so far.
Yeah.
So let's see if we can get some of that if they do fall behind to the Patriots this upcoming weekend.
All right. Well, I told you I had Jerry Jeudy as my number 2. Who is your number 1, Field Yates? Why don't you give me your number 2?
My number 2, and this one actually really hurts. Travis Hunter. Who scored 9.4 or fewer points every single week. Guess his best weekly finish at wide receiver.
Wide receiver 26.
Oh, I was going to say 25th.
I wish. 44.
Yikes.
Wide receiver 44 is best finish. Now, there are some encouraging signs. The 2 encouraging signs that we have seen recently. 3. 1, when he does touch the football, man, is it electric.
Yep.
2, he's coming off of a season high in snap percentage on offense. 3, he's also coming off of a season high in route percentage. But again, the concede here is if you're struggling and Kimani Vidal's available for you, then yes, I would be willing to drop Travis Hunter there. I understand the temptation to hold on to him because the upside of Travis Hunter is still very appealing, but in a part-time role for an offense that, even with the better day from Brian Thomas Jr. last week, is definitely not humming in the passing game, hard to justify Travis Hunter as an absolute must-hold.
I think the hardest thing, and we just need to acknowledge it, is it's the buyer's remorse, even though you're not buying. But, it's that I'm going to let him go.
Yep.
Someone else is going to pick him up.
Yep.
And he's going to go nuts for their league. And I made the decision to let him go. And so you hang on because you're like, it's going to turn. But to your point, Kimani Vidal is available. And if that's where you have a need and this is just a hanger on, then it's time to let go, even as painful as it might be.
I have Travis Hunter as my third player. So, Field, you and I have
Yeah,
two of the
look
same
at you
three
two.
because I had Jerry Judy and
Share
Travis
a
Hunter.
You guys call
But-
each other last
no,
night?
we did not.
You share
We did not.
homework?
But I agree.
Too busy drinking Mountain Dew to stay up until midnight for the first time in 6 months.
I did not. I did not want to put Travis Hunter on this list, though, in part because of the things that you just said, Stephania. I feel like if there's someone I don't want to give up on, it's the number 2 overall pick in a
course.
in
Yeah,
a
but
situation
you
in
can-
which, like,
Yeah.
You can watch him from the bottom of your fantasy league.
Agreed. So, like, but everything that you said makes a ton of sense. Like, I don't want to, and we led into this. I don't want to drop Travis Hunter.
Well,
but if I'm at a spot where like my roster needs it, he is droppable for me.
I think we're talking about like I could have come up with 20 names of guys that are rostered in 35% and higher. That just like, why are you doing this? Like, it makes no sense whatsoever, right?
Correct.
That's not the point of this exercise. The point is, if you're really, really in a roster crunch and you absolutely must drop someone, you have one of these guys, I believe they are droppable. Do you have any more, Stephania?
Agreed.
Yeah, I went with Tyrone Tracy. And
It was my
Oh.
third and final pick, yeah.
Look at that.
See?
Well, what? Did you guys call each other last night or what?
Again, we were drinking Mountain Dews
Okay,
together. so I
okay,
could
all
stay
right,
up until
that's
midnight.
fair.
It's just the Cam Scatterbo show. And between Tyrone Tracy's injury, the way Cam Scatterbo is being utilized, I just think that you're holding out for something that you might get once in a while.
Yeah.
But in the Jaxson Dart's looking for Scatterbo. I don't think that Tyrone Tracy is going to pay off in the way that you would have hoped, and it's time to go find someone else.
I put him third for me because I felt, interesting enough, I felt least compelled to make this one of my picks, even though he's rostered in the lowest percentage of leagues out of my 3 picks.
Yeah.
He's available in like 45% of leagues, so he's rostered in like 55%. 30% of snaps last Thursday for Tyrone Tracy. 30% of the snaps, I should say. No targets, and that's kind of the secret sauce here, right? This is a 4-year college wide receiver turned college running back. He ran just 6 routes. Part of the value here for Tyrone Tracy is, hey, Scatterbo still may lead with 15, 18 rushes in a game.
Yep.
He's a great pass catcher too, but can Tyrone Tracy get some of that third down work, couple of screen opportunities per week? That has not been the case, or was not the case last week in his first game back from action.
There are a handful of names, Field, that you mentioned where you're like, I could give you guys that are 35% rostered. And it was actually pretty easy when I was going through. It was like, man, there's a bunch of guys in like the 30 to 40% range. Juwan Johnson as a tight end. I don't think you need to roster Juwan Johnson anymore like that.
Yes.
That came and went.
Taysom
right?
Hill proved that this week.
Is Taysom Hill somebody that we need to pay attention to with how bad the
No,
tight end
because it's
position
going to
is?
drive you crazy. It's going to be
But
the
did he
same.
What did Taysom Hill do in terms of
It
production?
wasn't a lot.
I
It
was
wasn't
going
a
to
lot.
say, I feel like
No, but didn't he get in the end zone?
He did get in the
Not-
end zone, I
but it's-
believe.
I think it's just enough to
did I
tease
miss
you.
that? Taysom
Yes.
Hill got in the
Yeah,
end
he's
zone?
One carry for
touchdown.
1 yard and
Oh,
a touchdown,
one carry,
6.1 fantasy points.
So, yeah.
But-
so
When you've got, it's enough to tease you every single year. Taysom Hill will be a tease.
Don't need it. Don't need it.
don't need, yep.
There's still a bunch of guys. I want to say this too. Like, there's a handful of guys that we've mentioned before. I'm going to mention them again. Joe Mixon, still rostered in 53% of
Why?
leagues. Please drop Joe Mixon. Malik Neighbors, rostered in 49% of leagues. We know for a fact, like, at least Joe Mixon, there's like a maybe he would come back. He's not going to, but maybe he would. Malik Neighbors is definitively out for the season. We need to do some of this
I'll
stuff.
take some of America off the hook here. You know, I do play in a couple of leagues where it's people that, you know, truly are just in a league to be a part of something. So I'm guessing that 49% is reflective of a lot of people that, you know, a lot of leagues where it's the office league and someone drafted Malik Neighbors and they haven't
Keeper
set their
leagues,
lineup.
sure. Dynasty leagues.
Right. So, but it should not be that high. You are correct there. Yes.
That's all. I just want to say there's plenty of guys that you can go out and drop to be able to add
but I think
somebody
the
else.
names, like I think all the names have been really good so far. Like that, like some of these take some stones to drop them. And
Yes.
so I think, but that's important because, you know, the way that you win fantasy leagues is typically not the easy decisions you make. It's usually the hard decisions that you make that end up paying off because fortune does favor the bold.
I love
Any
that.
more?
Not from that perspective. No, I was just thinking about a couple other like situations
I
this
didn't
week.
look at roster percentage, but I was just like Marvin Mims. That's a name who's
Yeah, that's
on a bunch of, rosters that I just don't think is doing anything for you.
Pretty much everyone not named Cortland Sutton on that squad you could drop. So yeah, there's a bunch of people. I did want to ask you, this week we're supposed to get Rashee Rice back.
we're getting him back. Yeah.
Not coming back from injury.
Right.
So there's no ramp up period.
Well, he is coming back from an injury, but he's had a longer period than others returning from injury because
It
of the
wasn't the
6-week
injury
suspension.
that was keeping him off the field,
Correct.
shall we say.
So, Any concerns with that, Stephania? And when you look at that pass catching core, just while we wrap things up here, Xavier Worthy, we've now had a couple of games of him looking pretty good. Feels pretty nice if you're a fantasy manager.
Yeah, well, I think the Chiefs are as good as anyone when it comes to the rehab front. And Rashee Rice looked really good in just how he was moving in the preseason. I mean, there was nothing. He had a pretty rough injury, knee injury that he had. But other than the rustiness, there's no reason he can't keep up his conditioning, but just football rustiness. You know, there's going to be some of that.
Yeah, the Chiefs very optimistic about Rashee Rice. I've got him as wide receiver 12 in my initial Week 7 rankings.
They do like to make these big splashes. Somebody comes back, and then all of a sudden they're a big part of the game plan.
Yeah. So it wouldn't surprise me if they want to get Rashee Rice, involved in the red zone this upcoming weekend. So looking forward to seeing how that Chiefs offense shakes out with now he and Xavier Worthy. Worthy was quiet on Monday night. He had Sunday night, excuse me. He had a touchdown, but he had just 2 catches and 1 rushing attempt. I thought there'd be more meat on the bone there for Xavier Worthy.
Well, remember, he had that ankle issue. I think that was a thing. He was not able to be quite himself, not quite as fast. Just a little, you take a little of the sauce off.
Speaking of, last thing here, and then I'll close it out. But I thought about putting Isaiah Pacheco on my drop it list, and I just thought to myself, bad as it's been, it's a running back. Right. And if Kareem Hunt gets hurt or something happens, he is now like the full-time starting running back of a squad. And as bad as he is, as much as I cannot start him, I feel like running back, I just can't drop in the same way that I can other positions just because of how bad it is. So I thought about Pacheco as one of them.
Yeah, those are guys that might be like if we did an unstartable category right now, he would
be in there for sure.
For sure.
Yeah. All right, that's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Today's show was presented by Little Caesars. Make sure you come back and hang out with us tomorrow for Wednesday. Mike is going to be here. It's going to be a ton of fun. I get to tell him why he's wrong about Dak Prescott. Everyone loves that. All right, make sure you get your waiver claims in, and don't forget to love each other. Be kind to yourself. You deserve it. We love you guys. We'll see you on Wednesday.
Peace.